Why do we punish people? I mean, really, why? It seems like such a simple question, but it cracks open this huge debate at the heart of our justice system. Are we doing it for revenge? To make criminals suffer for what they did? Or is it all about getting results, creating a safer world for everybody? And what happens when those two ideas clash? Well, let's dive into this philosophical puzzle. So this is really the fundamental choice we're looking at. Are we backward-looking, focused on settling a score for a crime that's already in the past? Or are we forward-looking, using punishment as a tool to stop bad things from happening down the road? Now, both of these ideas feel kind of right, don't they? But as we're about to see, they can pull us in totally different and sometimes really troubling directions.
Okay, so this debate has been raging for centuries, and it basically breaks down into two big teams. First up, you've got Team Retribution. For them, it is all about the past. The goal is pure and simple: justice. Offenders get what they deserve. Then you have Team Utility, which is really just utilitarianism. Their eyes are on the future. For them, punishment only makes sense if it does some good, like preventing crime and making life better for everyone else.
All right, so let's dig into Team Retribution first. This is probably the oldest, most gut-level idea of justice we have.
This right here. This gets to the absolute heart of it. From this point of view, punishment isn't a tool you use to achieve some other goal, like a safer neighborhood. Nope. It's not a means to an end. The punishment is the end. The reason a guilty person suffers is simply because that's the morally correct response. It's about balancing the scales.
So the key thing to get here is that this view is completely backward-looking. The only thing that matters is the crime that was committed. The whole point of the penalty is just to deliver the suffering that is now owed. It has nothing to do with what might happen in the future.
And here's where the argument kind of hits a brick wall. See, retributionism is great at telling you why this specific criminal deserves to be punished, but it really struggles to explain why we should have an entire government institution of punishment to begin with. If you ask, why should the state be in the business of making people suffer, the only real answer is, well, because it's fitting. To justify the system itself, they usually have to start borrowing ideas about social benefits, which, come from the other team.
Okay, so if Team Retribution has a hard time justifying the whole system, let's flip over and see what Team Utility has to say. Their whole approach is different, and, on the surface, it sounds a lot more practical.
For utilitarian, it's just this simple, forward-looking chain of logic. First, you establish a credible threat of punishment. That threat, in turn, creates deterrence. It scares people away from committing crimes. And the result? A safer, better society with less crime. The actual act of punishing someone is really just about making sure that threat stays credible. The whole system is justified by the good results it produces for everyone.
This all seems so clean, right? So practical. But it leads us down a path to a very, very dark question. What happens if you take this one idea, preventing harm, and push it to its absolute logical extreme? If the only thing that matters is the overall good.
And there it is, the huge, terrifying flaw in the system. Just imagine a situation where framing one innocent person could stop a massive riot that would kill hundreds. A pure hardcore utilitarian who only cares about the best outcome for the most people might have to say, yep, punish the innocent person. And that is a monstrous injustice that pretty much all of us would immediately reject.
So this leaves us in a really tough spot. We've got these two major theories of punishment, and both of them seem to be fundamentally broken in some way. So let's just lay it out. This is the trap we're in. Retributivism gives us a solid reason to punish a guilty person, but it can't really justify the whole system. Utilitarianism gives us a great reason for the system, but it could lead to these horrifying, unjust outcomes for individuals. Is that it then? Are we just stuck? Do we really have to choose between a system that doesn't quite add up logically and one that could be morally monstrous? For a long, long time, it really seemed like the answer was, yeah, we're stuck. But then someone came along with a totally new way of looking at the problem.
And the breakthrough came from a philosopher named Stanley I. Benn. He argued that we were all stuck because we were asking the wrong question. We were trying to find one single clean answer for punishment. But what if punishment isn't just one single thing? Benn's big idea was realizing that hidden inside this one messy question we've been asking about punishment, there are actually four totally separate questions that each need their own answer. And here they are. First, the big picture question. Why even have a system of punishment in the first place? Second, a question of who's eligible. Who can we legitimately punish? Third, more of a policy question.
How do we decide how severe penalties should be for different crimes? And finally, a question for the courtroom. What is the right sentence for this person, right here, right now? Just by separating these out, Benn completely changes the game.
And here's the absolute genius of this approach. It means we don't have to pick a team anymore. We can use both philosophies like tools in a toolbox and just apply the right tool to the right question to build a complete and solid framework. Okay, check out how this works. For question number 1, why have the institution at all, we use a utilitarian answer. We have this system because overall, the benefits of safety and deterrence outweigh the harm of inflicting suffering. But for question 2, who can we punish, we switch teams. We use a retributive answer. We can only punish people who are actually guilty. This acts like a moral firewall. Then, for question 3, how severe should penalties be, we switch back to utility. We set penalties at a level that stops crime without causing more suffering than is necessary.
This whole framework just brilliantly solves that utilitarian nightmare of punishing the innocent. How? By locking in that retributive principle right at the definition. By its very definition, punishment can only be given to an offender for an offense. That means punishing the innocent isn't just wrong, it's a logical contradiction. It doesn't make sense. You can hurt an innocent person, sure, but you can't technically punish them. That simple rule is the firewall.
And this also clears up how we should think about setting penalties. It's not about being as harsh as possible. The utilitarian idea here is all about balance. You're looking for that sweet spot, that just right bar on the chart, where the punishment you inflict is justified by the crime you prevent. Anything more severe is just causing needless, unjust harm, which a good utilitarian would reject.
So the huge takeaway here is that this whole time we were looking at a debate that didn't need to be a fight. Retribution and utility aren't these bitter rivals trying to knock each other out. They're actually different philosophical tools. And you need both of them working together to build a system of justice that's both effective and morally decent.
So now, this framework gives you a really powerful new lens to look at the world. The next time you see a headline about a controversial sentence or a new tough-on-crime law, ask yourself, which of Benn's 4 questions are people really arguing about here, and are they using the right tool for the job? You might just find that the answer changes everything.